The author comes to C-SPAN, and we meet them and just bring them back into what we call the green room.
While I'm doing that,
I find it's very important to tell them this is an hour-long conversation. There are no stops or starts. There are no second chances, but there are no interruptions either. So I think those subtle pros and cons, if you will, are important to tell even the most experienced interviewee. Needs to be reminded of, you know, this is the way we work here. And I also tell them that the basics, as viewers would know who watch Booknotes, that Brian, the host, holds up the book in the beginning and holds up the book at the end, just so that viewers can see the cover. Oftentimes he'll hold up the book and show pictures. Sometimes we prepare what's called a still store of a picture in advance, or a series of pictures, if there are a lot of pictures in the book, because the pictures often bring the book to life. The control room for Booknotes is two-tiered. The director is sort of the heartbeat in the first row. Behind the director and that series of people is the producer and the associate producer. And then I sit right to the left of the associate producer, watching the program, taking careful notes. If there's anything, as I mentioned before, to follow along as to whether we're going to go to any photos. If you want a second hour, if you want to know more, if you're frustrated that the time has run out, that's a real sign that the Booknotes and the author have opened up to you. Like C-SPAN, Booknotes has its own mission of sorts, and it's a very simple mission. The books that are considered and that are on Booknotes are nonfiction. They are hardcover, and many of our authors write a lot of books. David Halberstam comes to mind. He has written, probably 15 to 20 books. But no matter how big a historian you are or how many books you write, you can only be on Booknotes once. It's a one-shot deal. And I think that was done at the beginning of the program, just in the sense of fairness. The other part of the selection process that's very important and involves a little extra outreach is to the university press market, to try and get a sense of what are professors writing about and what history is out there that's not being done by the big publishers, that doesn't have a big display in Barnes & Noble or at an independent bookstore. What books are sort of quieter books written by professors that still are little gems? Christopher Dickey wrote a book about growing up with his father and all sorts of experiences, and it was called Summer of Deliverance. His father's a famous writer, and he had talked about it in the book, and he had talked about the importance of becoming close with his father before he died. There were elements that he admitted to us after the taping that he had never gone into before, that I don't think anyone can quite explain why, other than there's the opportunity, and some authors who have been maybe alone in a room writing this book for so long, it comes out. There's a reason that Booknotes interviews sometimes take a very personal direction. I think it's hopefully obvious to anyone that watches it that you can catch your breath a lot of times on Booknotes, and the format is very patient. I think certain authors from either different parts of the country or who've had a different background than other people in America, if they include details in their book, either lists or phrases that are explained in the book, but you know, if you're watching Booknotes and you haven't read the book, you're not going to pick up on what the author's, you know, what kind of atmosphere or what kind of you know, regional flavor or whatever the word may be the author's trying to create. It's really trying to discover where the author's coming from. And if an author writes a certain sentence, what does that mean? Or have we interpreted this the way the author meant it? And sometimes no, the meaning is completely different than what you would think hearing the language. I think that biography and autobiography are very telling about, in essence, you can study all the public policy and kind of wonk books you want, but if you have someone who can bring people to life